Hello Flosstube, my name is Aimee and this is my 8th Flosstube. I am the Black Cat Stitcher here on YouTube and on Instagram, I'm going to start out as per usual with all of the things stitchy, and then go to the second half, which is my things that I've read over the past 2 weeks. So yeah. The first up, as always, is my focus project, which is Star Wars Cross Stitch by Nina Olsen Embroidery on Etsy. If you are my father, please look away right now. And this is what it is going to look like. I'm currently working on Darth Maul, and you'll have the pleasure again this week of seeing it all at one time, because I'm gonna move the Q-snap again. I finished filling in his hood there, and I'm planning on moving it down a couple inches so that I can go all the way down to the bottom and fill in the background. There's still some more darker colors there at the bottom of his hood, but for the most part I'm down to the bottom background part. And then I'm gonna move on to Boba Fett, and yeah, I'm making lots of good progress on this one. But like I said in my last video, this one, it's pretty quick on that part because there was only 2 colors to fill in the hood there, just 310 and 939. I used like an entire skein of 939, maybe just a little bit more than entire skein, but yeah, I used a lot of 939. And then the next thing, I spin the tiny wheel decisions wheel and I pick 2 projects to work on during the 2 weeks. And the first project that I selected was my Mermaid bookmark. And I finished it. Yay! Yeah, it feels good to get a finish, y'all. It's been a while, but it's nice to have some of these smaller projects on hand so that I can get some good finishes. But yeah, I finished the Mermaid bookmark, and I actually finished it pretty quick, like with a day to spare in my week that I was planning on focusing on that project. So I made an executive decision and I went back to the, goodness, there's some sirens outside. Anyway, I went back to the Tin Man one, and he is also finished because I really didn't have all that much left in him. So, ta-da! It feels really nice to have a couple of finishes under my belt. And it looks so good on camera, like I said. You can really tell, you know, the two-tone clouds, and also down here the mountain. They're 2 different colors of blue, but when I look at it up close, they're really, really similar, but you can kind of tell on camera that they're 2 different colors. So that's nice, and it's nice to have, I only have 1 more bookmark left to go, and it is, goodness, where is it? The Totoro bookmark. Yep, and I've already finished these 2. So now I only have 1 left, Totoro. I still have a ways to go on Totoro. So even if I spin it again for the next 2 weeks, I probably won't finish it, but meh, that's all right. Anyway, and for this past week, what I've been working on is my project on black fabric that I've promised myself that it's okay to go slow and steady on. So, you know, I have been keeping my word and going slow and steady. It's a little bit more of a difficult project for me to work on, but here, let me get the picture to show you what it'll look like. It will end up looking like this. and it looks fantastic for the end project. But so I want to finish, but you know, that will happen eventually. Anyway, what I did, this is, whoa, I need to block the light. You can see through the fabric. You can still see through the fabric. I've come immensely prepared, obviously, because I don't have anything to block it. Anyway, yes, there is where I'm at. I color completed this dark blue, and then there's this periwinkle blue right here. I also color completed that, and there's some in here too. And I color completed another purple in here. It's kind of down here-ish, and then a little bit up in this building. So yeah, I might work on this a little bit more tonight, but you know, Olympics. Fun fact about me, I become extremely obsessed with the Olympics when they're on. So I've been spending since Friday, I've been spending a lot of time watching the Olympics. So, that's okay. I can take a break from stitching for the Olympics because they only happen every couple years. So, I mean, both the summer and the winter. Every 4 years for just the summer. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching, you know, gymnastics especially. I love gymnastics. I also like the equestrian events. Those are real fun to watch because, also another fun fact about me, I used to ride horses when I was little. My mom would take me to a farm near my house. Not near my house, we had to drive a little bit, but she got riding lessons for me in exchange for tutoring this person's kids. So that was a fun thing. I haven't done it in a very long time, and I'm probably a little rusty, but it will be fun maybe someday to get back on a horse. I just have to find a friend who has a horse. But yeah, I like the Olympics, long story short. All right, now on to plans. I have decided that I'm going to start knitting, trying to knit. I've already started a little bit of my project. I'm going to end up knitting a blanket, but to be honest, I mean, what I've only like knitted 3 rows. Are you okay there, bud? He's fine, he's just noisy. Anyway, I've only stitched like 3 rows, and it's hard to show and tell that a little bit, so I'm gonna give myself a little bit more time. But I'm just going to do that when, you know, the mood strikes me to do a little bit of knitting. Yeah, well, I'll show you my progress on that when I have progress to show, I guess, something that's substantial. But anyway, I'm excited to try knitting, and it'll take me a while to do an entire blanket, but I think that it will be kind of a cool journey. I'll be able to tell, you know, maybe at the top of the blanket my stitches are going to be a hot mess, but by the end of it I might become a little bit better at it, and you'll be able to tell. So I think that's going to be a cool piece to show off my knitting progress as time goes on. Anyways, now to stitching plans. I added, as per request, the pink tree to my decision wheel. But since I finished 2 projects this week, I also added this orange tree. Whoops, you'll see all my photos. Anyway, that orange tree by executive choice because I didn't have time to ask people to vote. But yeah, the orange tree and the pink tree have now been added to the decision wheel. And link to all the things that I'm working on, except for a select few projects that I, you know, don't know their origins. I won't put the link, but they'll be in the description below. So anyways, here's the tiny decision wheel. First spin will be for my first week. Oh, Rainbow City again. Okay. That's this one again. I'm not too excited about that, but I will still do it, because I do need to, you know, continue to make slow but steady progress on that one. Even though it may not be my favorite stitch in the world, I've committed in my head to doing it until I get entirely frustrated, and maybe I'll toss it, but for now, I'm forging ahead. Anyway, next spin will be for the second week in between videos. Totoro! Woo! I will work on that Totoro bookmark. I will show you where I am, because I have it in the same bag that I've stored all of my other bookmarks. But yes, okay, so this is where I'm at currently with Totoro. I've finished all of the black, and I'm adding in some of the blue in the background, so, and the blue leaves, of course. So that is where I'm at with Totoro, and I will keep working on that some more in the next 2 weeks. Gosh, I've got strings everywhere on this Totoro because I stopped off mid-string. Anyway, now we're going on to the book part of the show, I guess, Flosstube show. So if you're only interested in the stitchy stuff, adios, and I will see you in Flosstube number 9 in 2 weeks. All right, so I've been a busy reader, actually, these past couple weeks. This first one that I'm going to show you is actually a book that I read the last time, the video before, but I forgot entirely to talk about it. But it is The Secret History of Wonder Woman by Jill Lapore, and it talks about, you know, the connections that the character of Wonder Woman has to, you know, the feminist movement, as well as to, you know, the birth control movement and the suffragist movement, and, you know, women's rights in general. And it also talks a lot about the author. He was a very interesting dude, and he was very progressive for his time, and I find him to be cool. So anyway, yeah, I recommend this book if you like comic books. It's kind of fun to learn about some of the movements or the people that may have inspired that character or played a part in their storyline. And of course, yeah, everybody loves Wonder Woman. So I've yet to see the most recent movie though. I really want to, but I will get there eventually. I'm not much of a movie person because I'm an introvert to the extreme, and I mean, to some point of getting a little bit of social anxiety and, like, you know, crowded situations like a movie theater. So I don't go to the movies very often when movies come out, first come out. And then by the time that they go out or are released for on streaming sites and stuff like that, it's, I've forgotten entirely that I wanted to see them, basically. And then eventually I'll come back around and it's like, oh yeah, I wanted to watch that, and find it on a streaming site and do it. And I know Wonder Woman was released, you know, on a streaming site, but I don't have a subscription to that particular one yet, so I'm going to have to wait till, you know, that's more widely available on multiple different sites. So the next book, or I guess it was a series of 3 books that I read. These were the books that I started reading for my mother-daughter read-along. This is Sworn to Silence by Linda Costello. It's the first of the series. And I mean, she's a very good writer. These books it's a series about a chief of police in a small town in Ohio, called Chief Burkholder. I forgot her first name. I think it's Rachel. I'm pretty sure it's Rachel. But anyway, Chief Burkholder. And the first book goes into a serial murderer case that he reappeared after taking like a 20-year hiatus. And actually this serial killer had connections to Chief Burkholder and her childhood, and she grew up Amish actually, and she didn't after her, what's it called, Rumspringa, or whatever it is called, you know, when Amish people, you know, or children, teens, you know, go, you know, experience the world before they decide if they want to commit to the church or not. And she decided not to commit to the church, and now she's the chief of police in this small town, and they chose her to be the chief of police because she has connections to the Amish community, and you know, she can speak Pennsylvania Dutch, and they were hoping that she would be able to better communicate with that part of their community. Anyway, that's a sidebar. And yeah, she goes, it's very emotional for her because of the connection she has to this case. And that, I think, is what's good about the book. I mean, a lot of murder mysteries focus on the murder, and not so much the story of the policemen or women that work on the case. I very much recommend. My mom and I read the first 3 books of this series, and I recommend it because, like I said, it focuses on the emotional well-being and stability of Chief Burkholder through, you know, the cases that she investigates in these 3 books. The second book was the murder was an Amish family in its entirety got murdered in their home, and she is trying to find who slaughtered that family. And then the most recent book that we read, the murder was, well, it was an accident at first, but they discovered later that it was a murder. 2 gentlemen fell into a manure pit, and they had assumed that they had died of the ammonia in the pit had caused them to die, and it was an accident. But it turns out that there was evidence on one of the bodies of somebody pushing them into the pit, and they weren't able to escape. So it ended up being a murder. But anyway, that was the 3rd book, and there's a 4th book we haven't started reading yet because we're working on a different book. It's called Ghost Walk, right? By Rebecca Stott. We've just started this one, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about it. But it's interesting so far. I mean, at first it was a little bit confusing, and I'll get into that more in my next video when I've actually finished the book. But yeah, and then there's another book. See, I've read a lot. I haven't finished this book, but it's a very large book, and I probably am going to take a while to read it, and plus it's, you know, in the category of upsetting history, and it's best swallowed in small doses, I suppose. It's called Blood in the Water by Heather Ann Thompson, and it's about the Attica prison uprising in 1971. And this uprising, well, I'm hoping, I haven't gotten to that part yet. It was because of the horrible conditions in prisons in the 70s, and prisoners were protesting for their rights to, you know, living conditions that humans should be able to live in, you know, because the way that this author describes how they were being treated. It was not good. They were being treated like animals more than they were being treated like humans. So I've gotten to the part, you know, to the immediate aftermath of the uprising itself. It went through the, you know, what led up to it, you know, the conditions of the prison that, you know, caused the men to take up arms, and what during the event itself. And now I've gotten to the part that's the immediate aftermath, you know, prison reform, I'm hoping. Right now they're mostly talking about the consequences, I guess, that the governor and the, you know, officials who were in charge of overtaking or retaking the prison, they tried to negotiate with the prisoners, but decided in the end to abandon all of that and just take the prison back by force. And it ended up that more lives were lost than they needed to be, including some of the hostages that were taken by the prisoners. They were killed by friendly fire because the prisoners didn't have, you know, guns, and all of the hostages that were killed in the aftermath during the retaking of the prison were all shot by friendly fire. And, you know, they're talking about basically how the governor of New York, because this Attica prison is in the state of New York. So the governor of New York is trying to make it look good or cover it up a little bit, and to make what his decision look good in the eyes of the New York public, because it said in the book that he had his eye on president. I don't know if he ever ran for president or not, because this is a pretty major thing. And yeah, and plus I will add, I guess as a trigger warning, if you are interested in reading this book, because like I said, I definitely believe that it's good to read about history that is upsetting, and hopefully, you know, this is one of those historical events that led to some reform in our prison system, although there's probably, I mean, I don't know much about the subject, but based on what I've read so far, hasn't been much in the direction of improvement. So I would assume that it's better, but much the same. So we probably still need some prison reform in the United States. But yeah, it's there's a lot of violence, obviously, because there was a hostage situation, and the state police, you know, barged in there and took back the prison with heavy firepower. So it does, and plus the prison guards did also enact some methods of retribution against the prisoners who were involved in the uprising after the fact. That's also pretty gruesome. And the second trigger warning is that a lot of the reasons that the prisoners were protesting, and the reason that they held the uprising, is because a lot of the things that were happening to them were racially motivated. So there was a lot of racial tension between the white prison guards and corrections officers and staff, and the mostly African American and Hispanic, Latin, I believe, Hispanic prisoners. So yeah, 2 trigger warnings. It's violent, and it's describing violence, and also there's a lot of racially motivated, I would say, hate crimes being perpetrated in this book. So I still recommend that you read things like this, like I said, because history isn't pretty, and you need to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this, I think, is in the ugly category. So yeah, that is it for Flosstube number 8. Quick wrap up, I will be stitching next week. First week, Rainbow City, and second week, I will be working on my Totoro bookmark, and I will hopefully get a little bit closer to a finish on that. And as always, I will be working on my Star Wars piece, and I will be adventuring into knitting, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some knitting wonderfulness next video. That is all for now. Goodbye, Flosstube, and I will see you in 2 weeks.